Yeah. So welcome to day 12 of Hyperautomation for UiPath. Good morning, everyone. So thanks for joining the session and thanks for your continuous support and learning. So today we are gonna discuss things that was related to email automation and also will touch base things related to exception handling too, right? So these were the two topics we are gonna cover. And yesterday we have discussed concepts related to database where we have just seen how to export import data from database to Excel and Excel to database. And also we have seen how to utilize run query and run command and the difference between the two activities, where the run query will help mostly with the select query, whereas run command works with the insert, update, and delete commands and all, right? And so we have also seen how to just connect with the SQL Server and also how to disconnect from the SQL Server too, right? So these were some of the basics we have just covered in terms of a database automation. So today let's try to understand something that was related to the email automation, right? So let me just open or create a process for us. So which will talk about email automation. So before just working with the email automation, we need to make sure that so we are just trying to do some sort of settings, right? So here instead of working with Outlook activities or like Exchange activities, so I'll be just trying to work with something called as IMAP or SMTP protocols. Even it's Outlook, even it is Gmail, even it is Exchange or any sort of mails, you can still have the access for that particular mail using something called as IMAP and SMTP protocols. So if I just search with the name mail here, so you'll get a lot of activities here, right? So all the things were related to Google Workspace, Microsoft Exchange, and all these things, right? So all these emails works on a protocol which is related to IMAP, SMTP, and POP3. IMAP protocol is a Internet Message Access Protocol, which will help us in just try to receive the emails. And SMTP is Simple Message Transfer Protocol, which will help us in just sending the mails. So I'll just take an example of this particular email ID where I'll just try to read the what I can say like mails and all. So I'll just try to read the mails from this particular email ID, and we'll just try to do some modification operations on this particular thing. So before that, so if let's say that I'm just trying to work on some email and all, so we need to do some sort of settings and all, which I'll be just showing you. So let's say that this is my sort of an account. So let me just manage this Google account here. So under the security, you will have something called as two-way verification. Okay. Where you can just create some app passwords here, right? We have something called app passwords, right? So what I'll do is I'll just try to create an app password here. So let's say that I'll just try to keep as earlier thing which I created, I'll just try to delete. So which I'll try to create as UiPath, right? So we have just created a password for our particular application. We'll just try to save it somewhere else. It is like a temporary password for me to access this particular mail and all, which I'll be just deleting where going forward will not be utilized anywhere. Excuse me. Right. So this is one of the settings I just need to perform. So I'm just trying to re-show it again for you. So first thing is I just need to click on my Google account. So where you need to manage your Google account. Under the security, we have something called as two-way two-step verification. So you just need to enable the first thing if it is not enabled. So once you enable here, since I made it turn on, it was asking me to turn off. But initially, you just need to make sure that it was turned on. And I'm just trying to create an app password here, right? Right. So here I'm just trying to create an app password. So once you create an app password, let's say that I've just created something called test. So it will just generate a temporary password for you, right? So I'll just delete this particular temporary password first, right? So that is the first step you need to follow. So and again, we will just navigate to settings here. So we have something called settings. Under settings, we have see all settings, right? So here we have something called forwarding and pop or IMAP, right? So here we need to make sure that we have enabled IMAP, right? This is most important thing to just receive the mails and send the mails and all. So let's say that if you want to enable IMAP and all, or else like you want to receive some details from this particular things, these were the details we need to go with. I'll just show that particular details also where you can just find that. So these were the two settings. We just need to make sure that whenever you just try to read some mails and all. And the third important foremost thing we just need to consider uh, is something where you try to basically uh, enable what I can say defenders or as like um, security applications, right? So if you are using third-party applications to secure particular laptop from softwares and all, so you just need to make sure that you are just disabling that particular defenders too. Okay. So those are the three things you just need to make sure so that you are just trying to make sure a connection with a particular mail and you are trying to access those things, right? So let me just jump into UiPath, open flowchart, where I'll be just trying to first initially receive some mails and all. Right. So for receiving, I'll be just utilizing IMAP protocol. So get IMAP in messages, right? So now I just need to provide some sort of details for these particular IMAP things. So I'll ask IMAP and SMTP port and server details. Right. For Gmail. Right. So these were the details you just required. This is my server details and this is my port number, which will help me for a secure connection. Right. So if I just open the properties here, I just need to provide some port number. So we have the port number as 993. It's constant for all emails, for all Gmails basically. So there's the server. Server I'm just adding as imap.gmail.com. And we just need to provide email ID. So this is my email ID. Right, and also I'm just trying to provide my password. This is the password basically instead of providing my actual password. I'm just using the temporary password, which I'll be just deleting after the use of this particular thing. Right. So we have here settings of only 100 messages. I'll try to read even it's read or unread. I'll just try to read. And the first 10 mails I'm just trying to read here. Okay. After receiving where you want to store. So I just want to store in list mail messages. Okay. So what I've just provided as an input from the inbox, I just want to read by just connecting to this server of imap.gmail.com with the port number 993 and this is my user ID password. And and I'm just trying to read the top 10 mails, and I'm just trying to store that in list mail messages, right? So if you just see the variable type, what it is, it's a list mail messages. So the mail messages are stored in a list, which is related to list mail messages. Okay. Hmm. So now I just read some data and I just stored it in some list mail messages, but I just want to see all the data, right? So I'll just utilize for each row, and I just want to iterate this particular list mail messages. Mm. Okay. And I just want to utilize message box to just see the subject of all the emails basically. So what I'll do is I'll just say like list mail messages dot, uh, sorry. So it's like current mail messages dot subject. So I just want to see the subject of all the emails, top 10 emails, which I'm just trying to read and all. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just save some mail and I'll just try to run the file. So here I'm just trying to read the subject, right? It's a security alert, right? That's the subject. Since we have 4 messages, we'll get 4 messages for the security alert. We have something called salience today. We have also promotions, right? In between, if you get the promotion mail also, it's also in the inbox. So it's just reading the particular mail. So we have a provisional video template, simple tools, 15% and more. Right. So these were the top 10 emails which I just trying to read. So let's say I just want to read mails with the subject which is so relevant to me, right? So what I want to do is I just want to see like if I'm just trying to get a subject with this particular email, I'm like from this particular subject only, I just want to read it. So how can I do that? I'll just take a small logic here of if condition. So I'll just use some if condition where I'll say, okay, subject dot equals. So this is a subject I just want to read, right? So whenever you have something called this particular subject, I just want to read only this particular mail. It's not all the emails, right? So what I'll do, I'll just say like, so instead of just looking for 10 mails, I'll just look for like top 30 mails. Right. So what I'll do, I'll just try to run the file. We are getting subjects only which are related to your path community forum, which were there in the top 30 mails. I've just only one mail. So where I've just got the data. Okay. So we can also just write, say some logic that, hey, if I get only a mail from a particular email ID, I just want to read that. So you can also still do that. Or else like you can also still download the attachments if you have. So we have something called save attachments, where you can just save the attachments if you have the attachment. Okay. So that is something where you can just utilize how we can just receive the mails or just download some attachments and all. So let's see how I can just send some mails and right. So now we have just seen something about uh, IMAP protocol, right? So now I'll just want to see which were related to SMTP. It's not that only on the subject, I just want to read these things. Let's say, uh, so for the current mail, I just want to read the body also. So you can see like who has been in the PCC, what is the body. Uh, so you can also get reply to like who is the sender basically. So who is the subject, all these things. So what I'll do, I'll just instead of getting earlier, I'll just try to see the body basically, right? So what is there in the particular mail? I'm just trying to understand. Mm. Okay. So this is what was there in this particular email and all. Right. Sometimes you'll just have some data where you'll just try to do some sort of modification. So that's the reason why we'll just try to read the body. So we'll just try to utilize this sort of activity. Right. I'm just now trying to send some mails. So how can I just send some mail? So I'll utilize the same SMTP protocol. Sorry, same protocols related to SMTP. So what is the details for sending the mails? It's smtp.jl. So send SMTP mail properties. We have our port or server details. So we have a particular port number. So we have something called email and the password, right? So this is my email ID. And I just need to even provide my particular password, so which I have written my other activity. Right, so this is my password. Fine, I just need to write some body and all these things, right? Subject, I'll say like it's a test subject. So body, I'll say like this is just a test mail, right? So to whom you want to basically send. I have another email which is just beside me. Okay, I'm just trying to just create some data, right? So let me just try to just send this particular mail. It's related to what I have. So meanwhile, we'll just go through the queries. So hi, say good morning. Yesterday you provided me forum link that tried all of the solution, but I'm unable to make the connection. Yes, we'll try to see. So can we get mail based on specific data? Yes, we can do that. We just need to apply the filter. So can we filter out based on what mail body contains? Yes, where you can just write condition how I just showed you since I'm just trying to get something related to a subject, right? So if in that particular body contents, you can write in the particular condition. So can we please zoom the screen? Yes, I'll do that. In my mail body, there is a low number. So after extraction, you just need to write some, apply some sort of rejects sort of operations or string method. Since your data is in a mail body now, we can just store it in some variable and just apply some sort of actions where you can get the data. So what are all the info we can get to be enabled in the mail settings? It's SMTP basically, and no need to enable all these things. Can we copy and paste the table in Excel present in the email body? Yes, we can do that. I'll just showcase that particular things too. Fine. So I'm just trying to send the mail, right? Let's see how we can send mail. Right, let us send the mail. Let's see whether we have just see it in the sent the mail, whether we have just got the data or not. So in the sent mail, I've just received the mails. Even have just opened my particular thing where I've just sent. So this is just a test mail where I've just received in another account also, right? So this is how we can send some mails. But let's say I have some data which I need to pass it dynamically, right? So how can I do that? So in the mail activities, we can just try to pass the mail ID content here using something called as create HTML content, right? So let's try to create some HTML content out of it. So let me just open this particular editor, right? So what I'll do is I at the rate, first of all, I need to add the values, right? So let's say I'll just map the values. It's a single value. Let's say that this is something called as first name. I'll just try to store it in something called str first name, right? So I'm just trying to assign this particular first name value to this first name. Okay. So similarly, I'm just trying to assign a last name value with something called str last name. Okay. So these were the two details I just want to utilize. And let's say I'll just add some other thing called as company. I'll just say like str company. Okay. So what I'll do here is I'll say like hi first name. I need to map the values. Okay. I'll say greetings of the day. Hope you are doing well. I'll just map the values like saying first name space last name. Okay. As per your company policies, let's say that what is my company? As per my company, what's the company here? It's like company policies. I'm just trying to create some content dynamically here. Okay. Policies. We inform to submit, inform you to submit all necessary documents related to tax exemption. Okay. So within next 7 days. Okay. So we can just write the function like now I'll just try to add some function called date. Okay. So what's the date here? I'll say like now dot add days of 7. So since I was saying like add days of 7, so I just want to just save it here. 7 days. Okay. So for the next 7 days called as date, right? So we just need to map the value. All right. So regards automation underscore AI, right? So this is something where I just need to follow, where I'll just get this data from some Excel, let's say, and you just need to loop for 100 or 1,000 people and you just want to send the mails, right? So somebody's asked, like, I just want to import even uh, some X table data, right? You can just keep the table data. I'm just providing some single data here. You can just add a table data here, right? So let's say, so please attach details in the as per below table. Okay, so since somebody asked about table data, I'm just trying to provide the table data too. So I'll just map values. I'll say like it's table data. So where I just need to create some table here, right? So DT1. Okay. So let's save this data. So in the variables, we have something called DT1, which is data table, right? So I'll just simply create a small data table data. So for that, what we can do? We can just use something called build data table to just add this data. So I'll just say like the list of documents. So where I'll just say required. So I'll just say like PAN card. So I'll say like S. So I'll say like Aadhaar card. So where I'll say like S. So where I'll say like form 16. I'll say like latest. Okay. So these were the details I just want to just send it across the mail, right? And your data was just stored in some variable called DT1, right? And you just need to assign some values to this multiple assign. I'll use multiple assign. Where you just need to assign some values, right? For str first name, I'll just assign my first name as like Sai, and str last name, I'll just assign value as Kiran. And for STR company, let's try to keep it as let's say Hyperautomation. Let's like let's keep it ABC or let's like Google. Okay, right. So we have just drafted all the data, and we just need to save our data here in some variable called str email content, right? And I'll just pass this email content to my particular body, where the body is basically email content, right? str email content. And since I'm just trying to generate some HTML content, we'll just say like his body HTML, it's true. right? So let's see how we can just add all this data and send it. Right, I think it has sent the mail and the sent items. We've got all the data, but we haven't got the table data. Let's see how or where we have just missed it. Right. So we have just got the mail saying like, "Hi Sai, this is my first name. So greetings of the day. Hope you're doing well, Sai Kiran. So this is my first name and the last name. As per your company Google policies, nothing but this is my company name. So we inform you to submit necessary documents related to exception within next 7 days. So today it's 24th. In next 7 days it's like 31st. So please attach as per billet table. So table was there, but the data was not attached here, right? But there's a process we just follow. I'm just open. I think yeah, we haven't attached the table, right? So I'll just attach the table. So now you will able to get. Since I haven't attached, it's not able to send it. I'll send it once again, where you'll attach the table also. So I'll just see it in the receipt. Right. We have something called PAN card where I've just said it says Aadhaar card is form latest years. The first row will be considered as the headers and all, which we need to just do some modifications. But we have just got some data. So since this is something called as HTML data, you can just modify it accordingly. Where you just need to apply some other sort of logic to it. Right. So this is something where you can just customize your data while you are just trying to send across the mails. And this is how you can just customize your data by just dynamically passing the data into your particular create HTML content. And the same HTML content is being passed across send SMTP mails and all. So if you want to attach some documents and all, you can also attach the documents here. So we will have attached documents and where we can also attach the files here, where we can just create an argument and pass the file path, where we can also send the mails attaching the files to, right? So this is how we can just send the mails, receive the mails, and you can just try to play around some sort of uh, uh, properties or functions across this particular mail channel, right? Right. So let's try to now jump into a concept called exception handling. So which is very much important in our particular automations. So what is this exception handling? Right. So let's try to talk something called as exception handling. So exception handling is something, let's say that I have just have a process where I just want to send some mail. I'm like download, read some data, where I'll just try to add this data into some application and finally send some mail, right? Okay. So this is my happy flow path where I'll just try to download my data from an application where I'll just try to read the data and I'll just add this data into some other application and we'll just try to send some mail, right? So these four steps will help us in trying to complete my particular transaction where we try to call it as like happy flow path, right? Now, let's talk about something called as exception. So the basic definition of exception is nothing but so deviation from the actual behavior of your particular process. So what is this actual deviation from happening from your actual process, right? So my process is to just complete these 4 steps. If in case there is something which is stopping me to complete my process because of some data missing, or like something happened due to some particular logic, so that is what we call as an exception. Let's say you don't have your data after downloading your particular data from an application. So your data will be basically in Excel. In that Excel, you don't have any data. Will there be any sort of logic where you try to complete steps by adding data into the application or send the mail? We can't do that because there is no data. So we can't enter any data and send a mail. If you have the data only, where you can just send the data or send the mails and all. So it is nothing but it is stopping you to enter the details into the application, which is deviation from your actual behavior of your particular process. So that is what we call as an exception that was related to the business here. Here it is stopping us because there is some sort of data missing, or else like you're not able to launch your application. Nothing but your user ID password is not correct, right? Or else like let's say that while you're reading the data, you need to enter some Aadhaar card number, and you have seen that the Aadhaar card number instead of 16 digits, it's only 10 digits. So when you enter the data and you try to click on submit, it won't submit because your Aadhaar card is an invalid number, right? If you try to apply logic before just entering the data into the application, where your Aadhaar card number should be 16 digit. So if it is not 16 digit, nothing but less than or greater than 16 digits, we'll consider that as a business exception. So we have exceptions categorized into 2 types basically, a business exception and the system exception. In the system also, we'll try to talk about application exceptions too. So business exceptions are nothing but exceptions which were related to the business rules and all. So as my business, your Aadhaar card number should be like 16 digit. But if it is like less than or greater than 16 digits, so there is no purpose of entering into the application and read and enter the data. Or else like you need to enter the PAN card details where it is only alphanumeric, right? But you can just write a logic that if it is having something called a special characters. So there is no purpose of entering the data where you cannot submit the data, right? So these are all considered as something called as a business rule exceptions. So what is system applications or system or application exceptions? So let's say that you're trying to launch some abc.com. Okay. So you're not able to launch the application, right? So if you're not able to launch the application or enter the details into the application, it is nothing but there is some sort of issue related to the system or application, right? Or it's like your Wi-Fi is not working, where you'll be not able to launch the application, or it's like the application is on downtime. So there is no purpose of entering the data, right? So that will be considered something related to system or application. If there is an exception that routes to system or application, so that will be considered as system or application exception, right? So we need to be cautious. It's not that only happy flow path is handled in UiPath. We should be also be there in a position where you will try to handle something called a business as well as system or application exceptions too. Okay. So to handle this, we have something called a try catch block where you can handle the applications. We have something called throw activities where you can just throw the exceptions and all. So there were some sort of different activities where we can just um, handle all these exceptions gracefully in the UiPath and all. So a proper RPA developer is something where you need to properly handle the exceptions too, because it is something if a particular person is doing since he had some experience, he will try to understand whether it routes to business or application or system exceptions. But since this is something where we are trying to instruct the bot to complete the process transaction by transaction, So we need to be very cautious enough to handle happy flow path, as well as if there is something wrong happened during your process, it might be rooted to business or system or application. You should be able to handle those things too, right? So we'll take a small example of just trying to see how we can just happily do that particular system or application exceptions by just taking the data here. So what I'll do is I'll just have some data here. 1 minute. Hmm. I think I'll just delete it one sheet. I'm just searching for the particular sheet. Okay, maybe I'll just create it once again. Yeah, I'll just have this particular data. Right. Hmm. So what I want to just basically do is, so I have this particular values, right? So cash in on US check, not on US check, and the transaction number status of the comments. So what happens here is, as per my particular process, I just need to enter this cash in on US check, not on US check. Okay, so where I just want to enter these things, I just want to enter this particular values on this particular application basically. Okay, so here I just want to enter these details, cash in on US check or not on US check, and I just need to enter this transaction number for each particular row. So if I just enter the values like 22 or 33, and I just click on accept here, it was 762, right? So now it will be changed to 763. So I need to just enter that particular details here. So if it is success, I'll just mark it as success. So if it is business rule exception, I'll just say like it's a business rule exception. And if it is system exception, I'll just try to say what is the uh, thing that was stopping me to just complete the process, right? So if the value is less than 100, so I just need to consider it's a business rule exception, considering that your value is less than 100 in the caching. If the caching value is less than 100, you should not process the particular transaction, right? So that is my business rule exception here. I already built a bot here to just handle all this data gracefully. So let's see whether if we are able to just enter the details by just opening the bot, or else like we'll just try to build it. Mhm. So I'll just open the file which has already been created. Uh, I have something called Excel desktop automation, right? Okay, desktop automation. Mhm. Right. So I'll just explain you the steps here. So what we have done. So I've read the particular data which was there on my particular desktop. So which is input data teller.xlsx, which is of sheet one. Fine. So what I'll try to do is for each row in this particular data, since we have multiple data to process, so I'm just trying to loop in the for each row of the data type, right? So we need to make sure that we are trying to utilize the try catch block. So my try catch block is in this particular body where I'm trying to launch the application, right? And we are just trying to assign the values. The cache value is from the 0th column on UST column and the second row column. So once we have this particular okay, so once we have assigned this particular data, so I'm just trying to say that if the cache value is less than 100, try to throw as an exception way stating that the cache value is less than 100, which will help me in just trying to enter these details into my particular Excel, right? And if it is not less than 100, you need to enter all the details by typing into this particular cache in on US check, not on US check, and you need to get the transaction number and you just need to enter the data by just clicking on accept. So I just used a message box to generate some system exception. So before clicking on accept, I'll just try to close the application, which is nothing but you are trying to create a application exception here, right? So if it is success, what I'm trying to say, enter the transaction number in this particular transaction number column, status as success. So we have catched here something related to uh, a business rule exception and the system rule exceptions. So if it is system exception, try to say like, sorry, business rule exception, try to get the message using exception dot message and business rule exception as status, right? And this is related to system exception. We'll try to mark it as system exception now, right? So let's try to run, see what happens basically. So there is an issue with this particular right. Okay, so we have this created. I'm just trying to copy the file here. So there is some issue with the existing file. So I'll just open my earlier process. So we have desktop automation file. Let me just try to run this file. It's not happening. We'll just build it. Maybe it will just take some 10 minutes where we'll just try to extend. Yeah, it's working. So it is trying to enter the values. Let's see. So for the first transaction, I'll just uh, click on OK so that I'm not creating any exception here. So for this particular transaction, before just clicking on accept, so what I'm trying to do is, sorry, it has just provided. I clicked on accept. So before this, I'm just trying to close the application. Right. So now what happened is basically, I've just closed the application before it just clicked on accept. Right. So I'm just forcibly creating some application system exception. So where it was not able to click the accept. And we should be also able to handle that if something wrong happened, how you are trying to handle that by just relaunching your application and trying to process your data for the next transactions too. Right. So now for the next particular transaction still able to do. And there is a rule that if it is less than 100, it's not even coming here to enter the data. Right. So let's say after file, all the transaction got processed. Let's see what is the data that's been available here in the application. Sorry, in the Excel as an outcome and all. Right. So we have processed all the data and we have just written the data also. Hmm. So this is my input file, right? So and this is my file called test data. So I'm just trying to wrap the text for a proper understanding. Right. So out of all this, how many transactions? 9 transactions. So we have seen that there were 2 business rule exceptions because the value is less than 78, sorry, less than 100. So those 2 were considered as a business rule exception. And for value which was related to 142, it is considered as system exception where it has not catched the particular transaction number. And what is the possible reason for this particular exception? It says that could not find the user interface. User interface U element for this action. So these were some possible reasons where we can understand that the selector is not found, right? So this is how you can just gracefully try to handle things related to the exceptions and all. So where we have utilized the try catch block and also throw activities to just throw the exceptions and catch it in the catch blocks and all. At a very high level, we're just discussing this particular thing. We'll just talk about this exception handling and all going forward. But to just give you an essence of what actually is exception handling, we'll all talk about. We just gone through this particular sample demo case. Okay. Any doubts as of now, please let us know. So, but after system exception should stop the process. So it should not stop the process for because like there are 100 transactions, right? So let's say that at the 50th transaction, there is something wrong happened where you're not able to process. But there are some other 50 transactions after the 50th one, right? So it should be gracefully stopping that for that particular transaction, and you should process for the remaining transactions too, right? So what is global exception handler? It's something where you will try to handle exceptions globally. Like if there is something every time you know that if there is a pop-up comes in the picture, you need to handle it, right? In the global exception handler, you will try to just handle only a single exception. What are the different ways to retry if an exception occurred? So we have something called as RE framework where we can just talk something about the retry mechanism. So here's something, let's say that the application is not working properly as expected. So what you will do manually? So you will try to log out, close it, try to launch it again and do the same process again, right? So the same thing happens here also in the retry mechanism. So that mechanism, we just need to define for how many times you need to retry, whether it's for 2 times or 3 times. So there is no purpose of retrying for the same transaction 100 times because sometimes your application will be in downtime for like some like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, right? So what is rethrow? So rethrow again throwing your exception to your what can the parent block and all. So let's say that I'm trying to uh, utilize in the for each. So this is something where I'm just trying to throw. So if there is something top of it, there is another try catch block, and you're trying to throw that particular exception there, where you'll try to use a rethrow basically. Is any other doubts? So Patra, do you want to add something? If you're there, still in the call, just left out. Okay, fine. Right. So just to give a glimpse, like we just talked about email automation, where how we can just send some mails, receive some mails, how to get some port or SMTP port details, nothing but the server and the port details, and how you can just need to make sure that you are just trying to do some settings before start of your particular email automation. If you're not able to do this part sort of settings and all, you'll be not able to uh, complete the things for like to complete your particular email automation and all. If you're not able to enable your IMAP, you'll be not able to receive the mails and all. You'll be thrown up with some sort of error and all. Okay. So try catch basically like we'll just try to show it in the documentation. Unless we can just directly show it in here by itself, right? So activity is try catch, right? So try catch is something an activity which will help us in utilizing four things related to exception handling. So we have three blocks here: catches a specified exception in a sequence or an activity, or either displays an error notification or dismisses it and continues the execution. So if you are not trying to handle these particular exceptions, it will be automatically stopped here. Let's say you have 500 transactions. If something happened at 50th transaction, something like exception came into picture, it will stop it at the 50th transaction. But you know that what might be the reason for this particular exceptions, or you need to be able to handle this exception at the 50th transaction and also complete the remaining 450 transactions. So that is a major purpose of utilizing the try catch blocks. So in the try, we will try to catch, like see what is the possible reason where might be the exception occurs. It might be in the sequence or else it might be in the activity. So the catch block will try to catch the exception thrown in the try block. It might be rooted related to system or application exceptions. Okay. So try the activity performed which has a chance of throwing an error. We'll try to throw the error. Catch the activity or set activities to be performed when an error occurs. Right. So the exceptions, we'll try to look for the type of the exceptions. And finally, if there is something uh, after completing the try catch block, so this finally block will be executed at least once, irrespective of whether there is an exception occurred or else like there is no exception occurred and all. Okay. So we have some example here of utilizing some try catch blocks where you can just go through. Okay. Can just show example of free throw. Send form question number 12 and 23 are duplicate. Check it once. Yes, the options are duplicated. Best practice to follow while handling exceptions. To just log why the exception has occurred using exception.message and all. And also, we will try to properly handle business system or application exceptions too. So can I just show some example of retro? Yeah, we will showcase that particular things going forward. In terms of definition wise, this is something where we'll try to utilize. Retro is used when you want activities to occur before exception is thrown and all. So throw activities used when uh, when there is something activities processed first and application or system exception is thrown after. Okay. Fine then. I think for today we'll just wind up. We'll again meet tomorrow. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sagar.
Sai.